Hello, this is AP Classroom, Unit 3, Free Response, Set B, Question 1. This particular question has no calculator allowed. When you take the actual free response test this year, in 2020, you will be allowed to use a calculator, but a calculator is not required. So let's work through this one. The problem actually starts right here. Consider the curve given by this equation, 2y plus 1 quantity cubed minus 24x equals -3. Part A, they want us to show that this derivative, dy dx, is that. So for this, we just need to work through and find that derivative and make sure we come up with over here. So I'm going to write that equation down again so I have it right in front of me. And we'll start doing a derivative. This is going to require implicit differentiation because we have the x's and y's mixed up. Start to do a derivative. This 3 comes down, so we'll have 3 times the 2y plus 1 squared, and then times the derivative of the inside, which will be 2 dy dx. And then the derivative for this minus 24x is just minus 24. And the derivative of -3 is 0. We want to solve for dy dx here. I'm going to move this 24 over, at the same time kind of clean this up a bit. So we'll have 6 times 2y plus 1 squared times dy dx equals a positive 24. Divide out this 6 and this quantity here. That 6 into that 24 is going to leave you with a 4, and then this part on the bottom. So dy dx is 4 over 2y plus 1 quantity squared, which is exactly what we were supposed to get. Okay, for part B, they want us to write the equation for the line tangent to the curve at that point. Tangent to the curve at -1, -2. So we can set this up. Y minus something equals slope times x minus something. And they told us this point, so that can go in right away. So this will be a +2 here, and this will be a +1. That's slope, which is dy dx evaluated at the point -1, -2. And our dy dx is right over here, so we can just substitute in, and that gives us 4 over. Now this derivative is only dependent on y, so it doesn't matter what your x is here, and that's going to be 2 times y -2 plus a 1 quantity squared. That's 4 over, let's see, -4 plus 1 is -3. -3 squared, 4/9. And that's the slope. So there's your tangent line. Okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at C. I don't have enough space here to do part C, so I'm going to have to go to another piece of paper. Part C says, evaluate d squared y over dx squared at the point -1, -2. So we'll need to find that second derivative. I'm going to put my first derivative here in front of me so that I can see it. Dy dx is 4 over 2y plus 1 quantity squared. Now here's a perfect example where if you couldn't get part A, they actually gave you the answer to part A, so you could do part C. So if you got somewhere lost in the arithmetic in here or the simplifying or something, it's still possible to do dy dx to find the second derivative of this one, because since they gave you that first derivative. Just make sure you start with this. All right, second derivative then, d squared y over dx squared. We have a big quotient rule here with a chain rule inside, so let's start plugging through. Bottom, 2y plus 1 quantity squared times the derivative of the top, which is 0, minus the top, 4, times the derivative of the bottom. There's your chain rule. That 2 comes down in front. goes to the first, and then times the derivative of the inside, which would have been 2 dy dx. I'm going to clean this 2 up. It looks icky. All over bottom 2y plus 1 squared. All right, let's clean this mess up. All right, this first part right here, 2y plus 1 squared times 0, all of that's going away. So what's left, we have a negative 4 times 2, which is 8 times 2, 16. So we have negative 16 times a 2y plus 1 times dy dx over 2y plus 1 to the 4th. Okay, I'm going to cancel out one of these 2y plus 1s. So divide out by a 2y plus 1. And here's what we have. Negative 16 over a 2y plus 1 cubed. Right, that's that part right there. But now we're also supposed to multiply this by dy dx. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply, substitute back by dy dx, which was 4 over 2y plus 1 squared, which gives us negative 64 over 2y plus 1 to the 5th. All right, there's your second derivative. Now let's go back. We wanted to evaluate this thing at the point negative 1, negative 2. So I'm going to come over here then. This is d squared y over dx squared. So now I want d squared y over dx squared at negative 1 comma negative 2. And we just substitute in negative 64 over 2y, 2 times the negative 2 plus a 1 to the 5th. This would be negative 64 over negative 3, negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3, negative 3 to the 5th. It's 240, negative 243. This comes out to be 64 over 243. Oops, you can't see that. I'm sorry. I've been talking away and haven't looked at my screen. I apologize so much. And there it is. If you need to get this down, you probably heard my words. I know you heard my words, but you couldn't see what I was writing. I'm so sorry. You can pause the screen and write down what you need to write if you missed it. I am going to go back and talk about scoring at the end. So, yeah, make sure you come back and talk about, or listen to the discussion about the scoring at the end. All right, let's go on and look at part D. Part D then says the point, here it is, let me do this so I can have it right in front of me. The point 1, 6, comma 0 is on the curve. Find the value of y inverse prime at 0. All right, well, it would be wonderful if we could find the inverse of this, switch the x and y, solve for the new y, and then do the derivative, and then substitute in 0. Or you can use that nifty little thing that talked about the relationship between the derivative and the derivative of the inverse. So let's just jot down a few things. 1/6, comma 0 is on the curve. 0, comma 1/6 is on the inverse. Okay? All right, now this is that nifty little thing. Y prime at the x value, 1/6, and the inverse prime at the y value on the original, or the x value on the inverse. These two guys are reciprocals. Okay, now we know y prime. y prime was dy dx, and that was 4 over 2y plus 1 quantity squared. So we can find y prime at 1/6 as 4 over 2. Now, this is where I think it's tricky. You're so used to taking that 1/6 and plugging it into, out of the screen again, I'm so sorry. You're so used to taking this 1/6 and plugging it in here to the variable. But you have to remember that this is the x value on the curve, and this in here is asking for the corresponding y value. So this has to be 2 times 0 plus a 1. I think that's tricky. This ends up being 4 over, did I do that right? 2 times, no, because 2 times 0 is not 2. 2 times 0 is 0. So this ends up, what is that? Okay, forget it. 0, this is 1 squared, or just 1. So y prime at 1/6 is 4. Because these guys are reciprocals of each other, then we know that y inverse prime at 0 is the reciprocal of that, or 1/4. That's it. Let's talk scoring here. Back to the beginning. At part A, I gotta look up my rubric. Hold on 1 second. The paper's got stuck. Part A was worth 2 points, B was 2, C was 3, and D is 2. On part A, they gave you 1 point to just plug through the implicit differentiation, plus 1 for that derivative, and then they gave you plus 1 to work through the algebra here to get to that final answer. They don't want it to be, and then a miracle occurs. They want to see valid algebra in here. Part B, they gave you plus 1 for the slope, coming up with this 4/9, and plus 1 for the equation of the line. Okay. Part C, they gave us 1 point to do the implicit differentiation. Plus 1 to here, or some equivalent form. So some people rewrote that dy dx as 4 times 2y plus 1 to the negative 2, and then did a derivative that way. So either way, you get to here, so do the derivative of the derivative, and you get 1 point for a correct, just plugging through the implicit differentiation. And then you're getting plus 1 to sub in for dy dx. So replace this with that. 1 point for recognizing that had to be subbed in. And then plus 1 for the answer. Now, this is an important point. You do not have to numerically simplify your answers. So, to go down through here is perfectly fine, but if you stopped right here and did not simplify that numerical answer, you would still get the plus 1 point. What they want to do is eliminate the possibility that you make a simple arithmetic mistake in here, because if you have this set up right, but you do the arithmetic incorrectly, you will not get the answer point. So to your benefit, to stop here and just show that you actually subbed in appropriately. Okay? And then part D, this last bit down here, they gave you 1 point. Part D was, only 2 points. So 1 point to come up with this. Y prime at 1/6 is 4, plus 1 for that, and plus 1 for this, for the inverse. Now, if by chance you substituted in the 1/6 here instead of substituting in the 0, get a different answer here for this one. But, so you would not get this answer point. But if you knew that these two were reciprocals, and you took the reciprocal of your wrong answer from here, you did it properly to get this one, then you will get this answer point. So they don't hit you on double jeopardy there. They really try to give you those points. Hope this helped. If not, please send me an email and I will answer any questions you might have. Thanks. Bye.